Welcome to Rising Stars, where Miriam Knight, publisher of New Consciousness Review, interviews exciting new voices in the world of progressive and transformational books, films, and ideas, who offer intriguing perspectives on life, the universe, and everything in between. Join us as we celebrate the conscious awakening and explore many expressions of consciousness in action.
Years digging for opals in Lightning Ridge, moving on to the hardhat, steel-cap boots world of drilling and construction. Her life switched to a different beat when the gift of grief opened her world to personal transformation, creation, collaboration, and connection. Marie's experience of processing trauma, along with her understanding of human behavior, enabled her to develop the tools she now shares to help others retrieve their personal power and self-responsibility and find personal peace. Her book is called Discover Worlds Within, Choose to Evolve. I'm very pleased to welcome her. Welcome, Marie-Louise.
Good morning, Miriam. It's lovely to be here.
It's particularly early morning where you are, Marie, so I'm delighted that you were able to make that effort. Tell me, my dear, where did your passion for creating peace come from?
Oh, look, it came from a space of realization of my own space of inner peace. And as you can imagine, it was a slow unfolding in the progression of my own realizations. It definitely, I was very unconscious before and became very conscious. And so in that, you want to share it up amongst so many people. And in that drive of wanting to share up the availability of ultimate truth, you could say, that, bubbled the passion that I felt within inside myself, which, just expresses creation, which is just a really beautiful dance to play.
So you say that you became conscious. Was there some event that kind of tipped you into that space?
Yes, Miriam, look, my husband left after 22 years of marriage, and that put me into the darkest of abysses. And in that dark abyss, there was, I no longer wanted to live. I wanted to die. I held the pillow over my head. I squeezed my body, and I really wanted to leave this body of mine. I had no idea that emotional pain could be so physical. And I was over it. I really did not want to feel anymore. I didn't want to be in this life anymore. So my lame attempt to leave was to squeeze my body so tight and hold my breath. And I don't know how long I did it for and how many moments I did it for. I have no idea, but it was my window to, a space that I had no idea existed. And in that moment, it felt like eons. It felt like the world stopped and I had so much space. And it was quite profound. And then in my coming back into this, I suppose, the physical space, I was then eaten by rats again. I could feel the rats just eat me. And so I had this practice where I would squeeze my body and feel my body and be present to this. And then each time I had that space of spaciousness. And that constant reminder throughout my day, I took that practice into my walking life because I wasn't hearing anyone talk anyway at that point. I was just so consumed by my thoughts. But I had this simple tool, the access, the window of possibility where I squeezed my body and I felt my body. And then it was spaciousness. I could breathe. I felt like I was free. I was so light. And so those practices, I started to have fun with. I started feeling things in the company of others. I understood that my connection to all existence was very present. And so in that realization, I was, there was so much space I'd never experienced before. And I understood then that the limitations of my past were still bound in my physical body. And in those feelings or progression, I was able to process those limited contractions or reactive states that I was living in my outdated, reactive states of conditioning or beliefs or.
Yeah, I imagine a lot of people will resonate with the state of absolute nowhere left to turn, nowhere left to go, the dark night of the soul that you explain. And if I'm understanding you correctly, what you were doing was finding a kind of a physical trigger to connect to an altered state that you experienced at the bottom of that pit. And soon we're able to bring that into your present reality at will. Is that correct?
Miriam, it's what I realized and as you can understand, the unfolding was a gradual space. Although it was the window of essence. I call our essential space essence only because every other word has so much conditioning around it. Whereas the essence of who we are is, it is full expression. It is unbound by our conditionings. It is absolute freedom. It has absolutely nothing bound by what we think or say, and we can't even articulate it in words. So the experience, I was able to tap into the essential state at will, yes. And the more and more I did that, the more available it became to me. Then expression started to flow through me rather than me having to force that practice.
So is this something that you are able to convey to others how to do?
Look, in so what I've established is a system of self, which is how fit is your brain, and it's an education. I'm very passionate about educating. It's almost like the bridge of understanding so that we can have. I was a very practical girl, and my mother suffered bipolar, so I had a very, very deep understanding of. I was very fascinated with neuroscience and all of those kind of things and how to support that space. In my intention of my whole life trying to fix my mother, I can see now that it was just an understanding for me to articulate or express our human behavior in a way that's of a language of today. And so, yes, I'm able to share how the brain works, the reconnection to the sensory body, how to start to observe the mind, what are emotions. I had profound awakenings, which were like a little petal at a time, which allowed me to see such clarity on a cellular level, which then has enabled me to articulate to people on what's going down in your town when you're reactive. Why is it that we do what we do, and then also being curious about the availability of the limitless possibilities we have in front of us through creation. And so, yes, as a practical guide, I'm very passionate about supporting the space of mental health and also to support the space of transcendence into our greater selves, which is available to each and every one of us, irrelevant of which space of evolution we're sitting on. Some of the people I was chatting with, a gentleman who was saying, I'm more highly evolved than, say, somebody else. And it was almost like a hierarchical system in the evolution process. And I had to have like a little bit of a chuckle. It is, there's no higher or lower. It just is. And we are all just a doorway from that aspect. And that's the very exciting space that we're walking into in human consciousness.
Well, in light of the recent events in Paris, I think that an evolution in human consciousness is sorely needed. Do you have any insight as to what might be the best way for us to expand into that space of connection?
As remembering hasn't been part of our human mindset of our essential state, having that real trust or the faith that who we are as individuals, who we are in the human expression, is at our foundation the beauty space of love, peace, creation, creativity, innovation, and all of those things are our essential expression. And having trust in that, and however it is that you in your life can remember those aspects more and more and more. The more you remember it, the more you remember your essential state, and the more that becomes your expression. So, for example, in my own experience was when I saw that space of peace, I kept on coming back to that, irrelevant of my external situation. And so in the remembering becomes the absolute, expression of that. So my son, who's, this young kid, and he had this, I would say to him, remember a time when you felt real love, and he would remember when he was holding his young girlfriend under a tree. And he would remember that as often as he could. And the more he remembered it, the more it became his expressional state. And so those essential, however it is in the form of you using the tool of your memory, because I love to see that our mind is a tool, our body is a tool, and our emotions as tools. However, we've been so dictated by these things that we have lost our essential state. So in the state of what's going down in humanity today, the more on a micro level, each and every one of us take responsibility for the space of peace within our own selves, or however that essential state looks to you, however you want to articulate it or experience it. The more we take responsibility on a micro level within our family unit.
Indeed. Well, Marie-Louise, we are going to have to take a break at the moment. Her book is called Discover Worlds Within, Choose to Evolve. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Bringing you the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Hi, this is Angela Levesque, host of Entanglement Radio. Join me Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern for inspiring conversations with visionaries in spiritual science and conscious healing. Entanglement Radio, Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern. Transcendent talk for the conscious mind.
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Elia, in the circle on Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. The future of Internet radio is here. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
Author of Discover Worlds Within. Speaking of which, Marie-Louise, the title of your book, What Worlds Within Are You Talking About?
It was when you go into any kind of micro space, you go into the self and you have so many layers and so many different paradigms. You go into an ant's world. There's another world in the ant's world. From their perspective, an ant is seeing so many different things to us. And then as you go inside yourself, there is layers. There is so many different perspectives that you can take, and there's infinite spaces that you can dance in, and that is, making the availability of within ourselves as the universe.
And how do you do that? Just with your imagination?
Well, imagination is, at our essential state, your remembering is already there. You're just peeling off the layers of our conditioning of the mind.
But how do you reach that state?
So there's just learning. You go inside. You use the spaces of contemplative practices. Take into your meditation. You can tap into your imagination. Now, imagination in the constructs of the mind is still a relative reality. What I like to expose to people is essential state, which is very different to the dualistic space of the mindset, which is where the light and the dark is, where the different spaces, there's infinite spaces of relative reality through our mind constructs. And when we go into essence, that just speaks for itself, which is very different. It's beyond mind, and it is beyond the relative reality. It's ultimate truth. And so having an understanding of how you work, and, it's the spaciousness between words. There's no dialogue. There is, and you just keep on. So what I've shared in my book is, how does your brain work? What is your body doing? What are emotions? How to use them rather than them use you.
So give us an idea of how you visualize the brain is working.
So, well, understanding it on I suppose, a neuroscience level. So we've got like our synapses as our neurons. And so these neurons are connecting based upon our conditioning and our upbringing. Okay, so we have these neurons which form, and I call these guys rivers of response. They're neural to body pathways which create the way we see, sense, and perceive the world to be true. Okay, now on a deeper level, the more finer, the more meta level you go, the more subtler seeings you're able to see, the finer frequencies. And so, but they are still constructs. So your neural to body pathways are spinning, and they frame the way you see, how you see in your visual cortex. And then beyond that, you have then more subtler realms, which then if you go into meditation spaces, you're available to see those things. And then as you reconnect to your sensory body, you can start, our body is picking up infinite, trillions of bits of information in every millisecond. When you become connected to your sensory body and you're very aware of your sensory body, you're available to pick up on that information.
So let's talk about the power of the heart, because I believe that's something that you focus on in your book. How do you understand that?
So the power of the heart is a force way beyond mind. And we put them so separate. We see them, everything so separate. And I'm just bringing it down to the heart because it actually moves our way out of our mindset, out of our words, out of our frames and constructs, which have been, passed down through time, which is passed through our, whether we want to call it our karmic spaces, our DNA. And so in our heart, that is a force which connects all life, all no life, all. It just connects everything. And that
do you have a sense of the existence of the soul? I mean, is this what you're talking about? Yeah, so that the heart connects with? The soul, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if we want to put it in yes. So it's so, I suppose I do, depending on where people experience or what they perceive as the soul self. But the soul self is wanting to play with, wanting to unite with God self as such. And so that union is available from the heart space where they connect.
Right.
That's where the drowning can come together, the immersion of the two is available from the access point of the heart. And it is always there,
Right.
It is always there.
You have something called the Evolve Yourself Institute. What do you do there?
So Evolve Yourself Institute creates programs and facilitates. What I saw was that I really wanted to funnel into many aspects of society to support the space of the growth of human consciousness as a collective, and articulating things in a way that was tangible to people that were listening. Was I could see that one aspect of our development program is to go into the not-for-profit organisations and support their health and wellness through finding their space of peace before they go out onto the field. You know, you have a bunch of humanitarians who want to support the space of, help people, United Nations, Red Cross, all of those people, and they have no idea how to support their own growth in those spaces of trauma. And they're exposed to so much trauma, and then that just feeds and ignites their own traumatic space within their own bodies. And so what we've created is a program which can support them like almost a OH&S prerequisite to go out onto the field, and then a teacher program, bringing it into schools. So we have the facilitation of teachers being able to be supported by How Fit Is Your Brain program, and then they have the online program where they can support their own growth while supporting others.
Now, when you say their own growth, are you talking about, how do you define growth?
Awareness, consciousness. So their own moving beyond their limited minds. However somebody wants to grow, whether you're fueled by the space of money, whether you're fueled by family, whatever your fuel is, when you tap into what is of meaning to you and you say, look, I want to grow, I want to play in this, I don't want to keep on like my parents did or be limited by the mind constructs. When people are curious, they start to play. And when you have all this knowing yourself, you have all of this knowing yourself. So when the curiosity ignites in you, say you get, in my situation, I was exposed to a greater existence because of the space of trauma. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't believe today we need to wait for those life trucks to happen. We have the availability of curiosity to start waking up. And as a collective, we can all be part of that. And once someone is chatting with someone else and they go, man, like, you live a very joyful, happy life, they start being curious about what you're doing. What are you doing? Oh, well, this is what I do. And if you can break it down into constructs, then they just wake up to them themselves anyway. They don't have to go and read a book. That when you start a practice that starts opening your own mind to yourself, well, then you've got your own story, your own uniqueness to start to express.
So is meditation your core practice?
Meditation is a core practice, yes, and movement. So the way we have designed the program is meditation, contemplative practice, reflection is a key. Also movement. The body holds on to a lot of our limited mindset as such, and our cognitive expression binds us in that prison. And so the more we are available to use the space of breath, meditation and movement, we are able to release those chains as such. I experienced the incredible space of trauma of holding on to, long-term sexual abuse. And those constructs were very bound within my body. Now, I had no idea until I was exposed to a greater sense of self that I was reacting in my physical expression to a very limited life. Mm-hmm. Now, that was very unconscious before I started, becoming very connected to my body. And so then that was just like, what? You got to be kidding. And, I had those moments, long experiences of bliss, and yet I could still be bound by this reactive state. And I'm like, whoa, that's not cool. How is that possible? how is that possible that I can still go in? And then so
So it's a constant process.
the process is, it's like, but it doesn't have to be. That's what I see now is, the doorway's there. And just being curious enough. Okay, well, let's process the stuff we've got in our body. The imagery that would come up in my mind's eye of ancestors and so forth when I would process something within my body. It was quite fascinating. I was like, what? I was not prepared for that. Well, I was, obviously, because it happened, but I had no idea about those. I hadn't read about that kind of stuff. I didn't understand it. And so through my experiences, and the confusion, it then needs time to adjust on a logic and reason level. And then soon the logic and reason does not matter anymore.
Tell me, Marie, how do people connect with you? You have a website?
Yes, we do. It's EYI.global. I've got like a great team of people coming together who are supporting the work, going into the schools, going into the NGO space, the peak performance, anyone looking for a peak performance in their human expression, come and play with us. We've got, we'll have meditations going out and EYI.global, you'll see us online. And we intend to collaborate with people all over the world and really using the tool of technology as a foundation in, exposing the deeper truths. As you're aware, Miriam, deeper truths is the connection that we are all connected to each other. And that's what technology can really bring to the forefront. Makes our world very small. And
very small indeed. From one side of the globe to the other. Well, we are just about out of time, and I want to thank you so much for being with us today. We've been speaking with Marie Louise, author of Discover Worlds Within and the founder of Evolve Yourself Institute. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks, Miriam. It was a delight.
And do stay with us. We will be right back with our next guest.
The best of holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM. As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Do you want to be a better communicator? Do you want to better connect with the important people in your life? Do you want to enrich your relationships? If so, join me, Matthew Cooper, on the Positive Control System Show every Wednesday evening at 11 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on OMTimes Radio. I'll meet you there.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of the Inspired Parenting radio show, where every week we bring you empowering information from the diverse fields of conscious parenting, education, neuroscience, consciousness, health, and metaphysics to support you in nurturing the best in your children. So if you're interested in understanding what shapes your children's minds, spirits and hearts, join me every Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and prepare to be inspired.
Being a radio host on IOM-FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network. Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
Anthony William. Anthony was born with the unique ability to converse with a top-level spirit who provides him with extraordinarily accurate health information that's often far ahead of its time. Since the age of 4, when he shocked his family by announcing that his symptom-free grandmother had lung cancer, which was later proved correct, Anthony has been using his gift to read people's conditions and tell them how to recover their health. His unprecedented accuracy and success rate have earned him the trust and love of thousands worldwide, including movie stars, rock stars, billionaires, and countless other people who couldn't find a way to heal until he provided them with insights from spirit. Anthony has also become a valuable resource to doctors who need help solving their most difficult cases. And he has poured his knowledge into his new book called Medical Medium: Secrets Behind Chronic and Mystery Illness and How to Finally Heal. Anthony, welcome. I'm so delighted you could join us today.
It's an honor to be here. It really is. So exciting.
I
Glad to be here.
Enjoyed reading your book. It was one of the more unique books that I have probably ever read. How did your abilities as a medical medium affect you growing up? I mean, this must have been a shock to the system.
Well, it was really difficult. One of the problems is that hearing the voice that I hear is happening at the outside of my body. So I'm not channeling. And so I'm not channeling, it's not coming within, and it's coming on the outside completely, to the point where it's like having someone standing next to you. So if you're in the movie theater and you have your friend with you and he or she is talking in your ear, it's the same thing, to the point where I could actually even physically partially block it out by waving my hand over my ear. That made it unbearable because there was no way out. I couldn't shut it down. I couldn't just take a break. And it's not even just that. I couldn't even find real peace because the voice, no matter who I was with, where I was, if I was in the grocery store, it didn't matter where I was with the family, the information would come through from this voice directly. And that's what happened with my grandmother. It came through that she had lung cancer, and I was 4 years old. And I told her she had lung cancer, and everybody was like, this can't be possible. She's fine. And later on, they discovered she had that. And it's the same thing happened no matter where I was. The voice would tell me what's going on with everybody, whether they had diabetes, whether they had some kind of chronic condition, whether they had aches and pains. So it was endless.
So how did people react to you as this kid telling them about their innards?
Being a kid, it was easier in a sense. So as I was, you would tug on someone's sleeve and tell them what's wrong with them. It would be total shock. It would be complete shock, but the flack wasn't so heavy because here you are at 8 years old, 9 years old, and it's shock, but who's going to really kind of tell an 8-year-old, how did you, find that information? What happened is that when you get older, though, and you do that, you learn your lesson fast.
Because what happens?
Well, you're now an adult or a young adult, and you start telling someone, a stranger, and you can't just tug on their sleeve like a cute little boy. You tell a stranger, hey, you have prostate cancer. Hey, did you go to your doctor because you have this going on? You have a liver condition, and because Spirit's telling me. So when you get older, you can't just knock on people's shoulders anymore because it's a whole different, game. And I had to learn my lesson as I was, becoming a teenager that, wait a minute, I'm not, I'm not really allowed to do this so much like that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So how did you come to terms with it?
It wasn't easy. You just don't live a normal life. That's number one. So that disappears. But
you had to accept that.
Yeah, you had to accept it. It was there was no way out. It had to be this way or the highway. It's just, this is the direction we're going, and that's it.
Did that come easily to you, or were you kind of kicking and screaming?
It was a struggle. There was this one time that I was about around 10 years old, and I would climb the tallest trees to try to get a message to God, because the voice I hear isn't God. I'm not talking to God. I'm talking to what Spirit tells me is the living word, compassion. So what happened was I was so tired of it. So I decided, how do I talk to God? How do I tell God that we need to cut out the middleman? We need to get rid of, Spirit. And so I don't hear Spirit anymore. I would rather just deal with God direct. So I would climb the tallest trees and carve messages at the top, trees that were 100 feet tall plus, and carve messages in the top saying, like, God, set me free. I want to talk to you. Let's cut out the middleman. And I was looking for any possible way, so Spirit didn't know I was trying to oust him. So that's and there was this one time where I got onto this really more dangerously tall tree. And, because I felt partly being invincible, too, because of Spirit. So I climbed really dangerous tall trees recklessly. And I got up there and I carved a message saying, let me be free. And I slipped partially off the branch, was hanging for my dear life. And I realized I don't want to be that kind of free right now. I climbed down the tree completely defeated and I just gave up on it.
Oh, dear.
So then I realized, okay, that was one time in my life I had to accept it. I had to kind of let it be. And there was no real way out. And, Spirit put me through some serious training. So not only does Spirit tell me what's going on in someone's life and in their body physically on a medical level, not only that, Spirit wanted me to have also some scanning abilities and training. So Spirit said, we're going to go into a cemetery and we're going to find out what this person died with. Was it a heart attack? Was it, heartbreak? Was it suicide? Was it something? What did this person, what illness? And I would have to literally call those shots and, walk by graves calling those shots so Spirit can train me and really, help me develop it even more. And that happened right there. That was around when I was 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old, 11 years old. And that was some of my training ground. So it wasn't a normal life. It wasn't like, okay, let's go to a birthday party or let's go do this. No. It didn't really happen that way. But you do the best you can. We all have gifts and we all get handed these gifts and we work with them the best we can. We all have these different struggles with our gifts in many ways. So, but yeah, that's how it went.
So when you went to school, were you trying to study things that would help you understand the gift? Did you study anything?
Well, it was difficult because of a lot of information that are in school books, just, quite frankly, just aren't 100% accurate. I think we know that now. There are some things that are in school books that just aren't 100% accurate. But so Spirit would tell me what was accurate, what wasn't. And it was really difficult. And Spirit told me that a classmate sitting next to me had meningitis. And so, and no one knew. And I went to the teacher and said, well, this child has meningitis, and everybody's like, what are you talking about? Well, the child wasn't actually back in school the next day, and it got around school and the news that the child had meningitis. That's the accuracy Spirit has allowed me to have, but it comes with, torture, through, I used to call this instead of curse, instead of a gift when I was growing up. Now, of course, I'm past that. And it's I got to accept it as a gift.
Kids can be such awful little people when anyone is at all different. And it must have been torture for you growing up.
Yeah, basically it was just about balancing and adapting. And that's what I was trying to do. And that's how I did it. It was like, okay, I'm going to have to adapt to this in any way possible and, make my way. I mean, my dream was to have an egg shack. Basically, when I was a child, I said, you know what? When you make eggs for people, they're happy. And you can make them sunny side up. You can make them scrambled. You can make them, poached. And my whole dream was just like someone wants to be a fireman and someone wants to be an accountant and someone wants to be a doctor and someone wants to be whatever. So my dream was to just run this egg shack, make eggs for people growing up, and have my little restaurant, my little egg cafe, and it was taken from me. There was no way it was going to happen on any level, and that was my dream. So you have to It was like I had to accept forfeiting my dreams, forfeiting what I wanted to do. And
Okay, we won't go there. Exact, right. Now, one of the most fascinating aspects of your book is that you provide alternative explanations for many of the illnesses really plaguing society today.
Because what happens is labels are on illnesses. Like you have to know that there's mystery illness is not just 6 kids in Idaho that came down with a fever and it's in the news. That's not mystery illness. That's part of mystery illness. Mystery illness is fibromyalgia, rheumatoid arthritis, chronic fatigue syndrome. It's Hashimoto's. These are all mystery illnesses and they have a label, but no one knows. Science, medical research, and medical science does not know the cause of any of these illnesses to today. So we get a label, but yet we don't know what it is. That's one of the mistakes going on right now. And I was with this gift. What was so great about it is Spirit knows what the causes are of all these different things that have labels. So people have an option. And then the other problem is autoimmune. When people are told they have autoimmune disease, they're told that their body's attacking itself, but that's not the truth either. So Spirit luckily told me that our bodies don't attack themselves. Our bodies love us unconditionally. They work for us every single day to get us through life. They don't attack ourselves just because medical science and medical research doesn't know what's causing a set of symptoms. They say, well, it's your body, causing it. It's you causing it. And the blame gets put on us. And so there's...
What has Spirit told you is underlying some of these things?
Well, everybody's different, but for instance, like Hashimoto's is a viral situation. That's actually a virus that I talk about in the book that gets into the thyroid and causes Hashimoto's. And they're still going to be 20 or 30 years away before they know this. But what medical research and medical science does is tell us that our body is attacking the thyroid. So when we leave the doctor's office and we're driving home, we feel like our body let us down and our trust becomes broken. And that's not the truth. It's actually a viral issue that gets into the thyroid. They're just not there yet. And they haven't known what causes Hashimoto's for 100 years. And the book spells it out and gets the information out to people so they really can move forward finally. And that's what I love Spirit about, because of what Spirit, did for me to be able to help people and did for everybody else.
That's such an important point. Well, we'll go more deeply into this, but we do have to take a break. We are speaking with Anthony William, the author of Medical Medium, a book you will want to get. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Free your mind with OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Hello, I'm Miriam Knight of New Consciousness Review, inviting you to my new show where I interview the rising stars of the conscious awakening. We'll explore the many faces of consciousness in action and intriguing perspectives on life, the universe, and everything in between. Join us each Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern on the Rising Stars Show.
Matt Connerton here. Join Jen Coffey and I twice a week for Matt Connerton Unleashed, a political talk show that's a little different than what you're used to. No liberal or conservative agenda here, just an honest dialogue about truth and how things really work in the world of politics. Matt Connerton Unleashed, every Tuesday and Thursday night at 11 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network. The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Anthony, which illnesses and symptoms do you see as being the greatest problems for people today?
Thyroid problems, that's on the list. Multiple sclerosis is actually rising up. Chronic fatigue syndrome. So many people are so tired, and they actually don't even know how tired they are because they have to live in it every day until it gets to a point where then we can't function. So, the whole fatigue is really becoming a problem. Adrenal fatigue, Lyme disease, these are all rising up, and it's becoming more of a household name, all of these different things. It's not like it was in the past, Miriam. It's just now it's just raging everywhere.
Do you think that's because people's immune systems are so debilitated through exposure to environmental and foodborne toxins?
It's a little bit of everything, and I talk about this in the book too. It's mercury that's been in our system for a long time. Like when someone says, well, how do I have mercury in my system? Well, actually, mercury in our system, it gets passed down from our parents, their parents, grandparents, great-grandparents. In fact, mercury that resides in our system could be 1,000 years old and mined out of mines. Mercury mines 1,000 years ago, and it builds up in our system. We're becoming more sensitive to radiation. That's another thing that's accumulating in us. And there's ways out. There's ways to heal, and there's ways to clean up the mess that's inside of us and move forward. We're not trapped, and we can heal. And then there's environmental issues of all kinds. And then there's stress and adrenaline, what we're put through in this day, because, things are quickening. Spirit calls it the quickening. It's the one thing Spirit reminded me over all these years. It said that make sure you tell everybody about the quickening. It's basically like we have all this technology, Miriam. And what happens is that, look at a car. It's got computers in the car. You could watch TV in a car now. You can do anything. It's not just power locks and power windows anymore. Cars are totally decked out with the best technology. But if you run over a nail, you're stuck because the tire is still a rubber tire filled with air from 110 years ago. Because even though we're moving quick, we got a lot of vulnerabilities. We're not in the place we really need to be, and people are feeling it. That's just an example of how far behind we are in other areas. Like, look at medicine. Heart transplants are fantastic. We can remove aneurysms out of people's brains. We can do a lot of things with modern medicine that are amazing. We've moved forward. But in chronic illness, we are so far back, nothing's moving forward, really. And that's a big piece of it all too. Money and funds aren't going into the right area, and we're becoming sick and sicker. So it's a hodgepodge of a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. What I liked about you have in your book a list of different conditions, the thyroid issues and so on. And then you have a list of what you can actually do to clear it up. So this is not just a descriptive book, but it's also a how to heal yourself book.
Yeah, it is. It's a reference guide. It's not only information that's 30, 40, 50 years ahead of the time. I mean, look, who has 10 years to wait for an answer, a simple answer that no one's getting for a problem? I mean, decades go by, and, I talk to moms that actually, their daughters are now sick with the same thing they have, and they never thought 20 years later that their daughter would have what they had, and answers would not be here yet for chronic illness. And it's really sad. And so I really explain it well, offer things in there that you can use to move yourself forward in detail. So it's a reference book plus an information book with advanced information. And it's not because I'm smart. It's because Spirit knew what to do. And that's why I've helped tens of thousands of people all these years recover their health and have many years ahead of them because of it.
So what is the number one step you can tell people to take that will actually help them feel better?
There's a foundation people need. One of the best things, like there's so many things, and there's hundreds of secrets in the book that are there. One thing is the type of B12 that nobody knows about. So you can go to a natural practitioner. They will not know about adenosylcobalamin. It's ADENOSYLCOBALAMIN. So adenosylcobalamin, what happens is we need this type of B12 desperately now, and your natural practitioner and your conventional practitioner do not know about it. In fact, there's just a handful of people in this country alone, never mind worldwide. And because of this, we're going to wait 10 years before it becomes popular, but we don't have to wait 10 years because I talk about it in the book. I explain it in detail. It's one of the founding pieces to keep us healthy during this modern time.
Do emotional health and spirituality have a role here?
One of the greatest pieces. I mean, it's a great piece to it. We have broken trust. As Spirit has an exercise in the book to recover trust, because our trust gets broken every day when we're sick and we're not feeling well and we can't get answers and we're told our body's attacking itself, which is misinformation at the doctor's office. And what happens is our trust gets broken. And then we don't heal because we have broken trust on every level. And we already have broken trust going through life with so many letdowns. It's just the way life works. It just compile the fact of being chronically ill. So what I like to do is I talk about it in the book. There's an exercise that Spirit taught me that if you watch the sunset, if you're there for a sunset, you don't have to stare directly at the sun. But if you're aware of the sunset as it's setting, even if it's for 5 minutes, your soul connects to it in a way to build trust, but you have to know why you're sitting there watching the sun, or why you're there at the end of the day knowing the sun is setting. And if you know it's to build trust back in your soul, what happens is as the sun goes down, we feel like we lost an old friend. We feel like we've been let down. Part of our soul feels like it's been let down when we're connected to the sun setting. So then the next morning, as it rises, whether we're sleeping or awake, there's an instant rejuvenation of the soul that the sun will never let you down. It will always keep rising. This is an ancient technique that's not known, that Spirit has taught me to recover the trust in someone's soul. It's really powerful.
How fascinating. I know when my kids were infants, they would scream whenever they were hungry, totally convinced that they would never be fed again and that this was it. They were going off planet. And, this idea of building trust is so fundamental. And particularly at this time, Anthony, when there are so many things impinging upon our consciousness, whether it's terrorism or pollution or environmental warming or autoimmune diseases, our trust in the universe as a benign place is very much undermined.
It is. And we have to build that trust. We have to have these, what I call trust reserves. It's like liquid gold. It's gold in our bodies. It's the trust reserves. It's the same thing like your bank account. If you're watching your pennies as you're spending them or how you're using your money, we have to see that too with the way we deal in trust. We have to build that trust, those trust reserves. We have to collect it and we have to save it within because we need to, because so much is lost when it's not there. If we lose trust, we lose out on life sometimes. So it's about trusting what we're doing moving forward. And yes, there's a lot of difficult times happening, but we can rise above that. There are a lot of healers coming out now, a lot of mediums, a lot of people in the field of healing, a lot of great doctors, and we're coming together. The time is changing. It's happening, but we have to participate. We all have to be on board to make it happen.
Indeed. You mentioned that there are a lot of healers coming out. I've certainly come across many, many of them. It's almost like mushrooms after a rain. But as you say, they have to accept and trust that their gifts are real and to accept and step into that space.
Yeah, can't get fearful.
Power. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Can't get fearful at all.
Yeah.
If you're sensing you have a gift inside, you're sensing that you're a seer, you're sensing that you're intuitive. If you feel that intuition building and you're offering advice and you're offering love, one of the things that's needed right now in this day and age, Spirit tells me, is we have to be compassionate. That's number one. We have to be compassionate. Compassion helps end suffering. It is one of the most powerful ways. Without compassion, we're in a very scary place. So that's one thing. And healers are coming out and they're showing compassion. Doctors are showing compassion. We're showing compassion to our loved ones, all of us, and everyone. We have to build on that.
Compassion really is the antidote to fear, isn't it?
It is. Compassion is a secret weapon. It is a powerful weapon to turn everything around and to make people move forward in any way possible. And then, having the trust, that's the other piece. You have to have the trust in your gift or what you're offering people. And the other big piece is listening to others, listening to the ones you love, listening to other people that you meet, hearing what they have to say, giving them validation. That spreads like wildfire and changes the world and moves us all forward. So these are three things that we have to focus on.
So remind us, Anthony, how people can learn more from you or perhaps get readings or consultations from you.
Sure. It's my book, number one, of course, Medical Medium, Secrets Behind Chronic and Mystery Illness and How to Finally Heal. That's a great way to get information. My website, medicalmedium.com, and, of course, my Facebook page, which I offer information every single day that's, decades ahead of time about fruits and vegetables and herbs and spices and teas and all their healing benefits that you can't find anywhere else.
I cannot recommend this book highly enough. Thank you so much, Anthony William. Thank you for being with us.
Blessings. It's an honor.
And I hope you'll join us next week. In the meantime, visit my website, New Consciousness Review, at ncreview.com. Have a blessed day. Be a light in the world. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.